You know them. You've seen their savage symbols painted on the ancient stones of the Reach. You've fought them in their cliffside camps, clashing with wild warriors covered in fur and feathers, their faces painted for war. You've faced the horror of the Briarhearts, their chests crudely cut open, their life sustained by dark magic. To the Nords in the Empire, they are the Forsworn, savages, raiders, terrorists. But what if I told you that every Forsworn you've killed was a soldier fighting for their stolen homeland, and their king is a prisoner, leading a rebellion from inside Skyrim's most secure and brutal mine? This is the truth behind the Forsworn conspiracy. Before the Nords, before the Empire, the jagged mountains and deep valleys of the Reach belonged to its own unique race of men, the Reachmen. They were not Nords. They were a proud, independent people with their own ancient traditions, their own kings, and their own powerful primal magic, a magic tied to the land itself. For centuries, they ruled this harsh but beautiful land. But in the grand conquest of Tamriel, Tiber Septim's legions marched, and the Reach, like so many other lands, fell under the imperial banner, which in this region meant Nord rule. The Reachmen became a subjugated people in their own home. They were treated as lesser citizens by the Nords, who now owned their land and controlled their great city of Markarth. A deep resentment simmered for generations, a fire waiting for the right moment to blaze back to life. That moment came during the Great War. As the Aldmeri Dominion pushed into Cyrodiil, the Empire was forced to pull its legions out of Skyrim's more remote holds to defend the Heartland. For the first time in centuries, the Reach was left without a strong imperial presence. The Reachmen saw their chance. Led by a charismatic and brilliant leader named Madanach, they rose up. This was not a chaotic riot. It was a coordinated, tactical rebellion. They stormed the city of Markarth, drove out the ruling Nord Jarl, and reclaimed their capital. For 2 years, from 4E 174 to 176, the Reach was once again an independent kingdom, and it was a functional one. They governed themselves, maintained trade, and even made attempts to be recognized by the Empire as a legitimate nation. They simply wanted what was theirs. But the defeated Nords saw it differently. They saw it as an unacceptable occupation of a Nord hold. The displaced Jarl of Markarth, desperate, turned to the one man he knew could retake his city. A young, ambitious, and utterly ruthless war hero named Ulfric Stormcloak. Ulfric agreed to help, but he had one non-negotiable condition. The White Gold Concordat, the treaty that ended the Great War, had outlawed the worship of Talos. Ulfric demanded that the Nords of Markarth be allowed to worship Talos freely once the city was retaken. The Jarl, seeing no other option, agreed. Ulfric gathered his militia and marched on Markarth. What happened next was not a battle. It was a massacre. Now known as the Markarth Incident, Ulfric's forces stormed the city with brutal efficiency. Madanach's people fought back, but they were no match for the Nord militia. The rebellion was crushed. But Ulfric didn't stop there. Once the city was secured, he began a systematic purge. Anyone who had supported the independent Reach Kingdom, men, women, landowners, shopkeepers, was put to the sword. It was a brutal message. The Reach belonged to the Nords, and anyone who thought otherwise would die. Madanach was captured, his dream of a free Reach shattered. This was the moment the Forsworn were truly born. Not as a simple tribe of raiders, but as a desperate, vengeful resistance movement forged in the fires of a massacre. When the Empire finally returned to restore order, they were horrified. Ulfric had not only committed atrocities, but had also forced them to accept open Talos worship, a direct violation of their treaty with the Thalmor. They had no choice but to arrest him and his men, but the damage was done. The Reachmen who survived the purge fled to the hills, their hearts filled with a burning hatred for the Nords who had butchered their people and the empire that had allowed it to happen. They became the Forsworn of their own land. And what of their leader, Madanach? The Empire knew that executing him would only turn him into a martyr, so they gave him a fate they believed was worse than death. They imprisoned him for life in Cidhna Mine, Skyrim's most secure and brutal prison, a place where dissidents and murderers were sent to dig for silver until they died. The Nords called him the King in Rags, a mocking title for a failed rebellion. They made a terrible mistake. They didn't just imprison a man. They gave a king an underground kingdom. Cidhna Mine is owned by the powerful and corrupt Silverblood family of Markarth. They profit from the mine's silver, and they profit from the endless conflict with the Forsworn, supplying weapons and getting rich from the chaos. And they had a secret arrangement. Madanach wasn't just a prisoner, he was their asset. From the depths of Cidhna Mine, Madanach began to rebuild his army. He used the other prisoners as recruiters and messengers. He smuggled orders out, coordinated attacks, and planned his revenge. The Forsworn raids you see across the Reach, they aren't random acts of savagery. They are tactical strikes, ordered by a king from a prison cell. He wages a guerrilla war from the inside, a puppet master pulling the strings of a conflict that benefits both his cause and the pockets of his secret jailers, the Silverbloods. The strange and brutal magic of the Forsworn, the creation of Briarhearts, where a warrior's heart is literally replaced with a magical Briarheart to grant them immense power. This is the desperate magic of a people pushed to the brink. They have embraced the old ways, the dark, primal magic of the Reach, because it is the only weapon they have left. So when you stumble upon a Forsworn camp, you're not just finding a den of bandits. You are finding a hidden outpost of a secret army, soldiers in a decades-long war for independence. Their savage appearance is a symbol of their rejection of the Nordic culture that crushed them. Their violence is the desperate cry of a people whose kingdom was stolen, whose rebellion was met with a massacre, and whose king rules from the darkness of a prison mine. The story of the Forsworn is a grim reminder that history is written by the victors. To the Nords, they are savage terrorists. To themselves, they are the true children of the Reach, fighting a war that never ended. They are not simply monsters. They are a monument to a forgotten kingdom, and a betrayal that stained the City of Stone with blood. And in the dark heart of Cidhna Mine, the King in Rags continues to plot, to wait, and to dream of the day when the Reach will be theirs once more.